Sometimes, we look for signs so desperately that we forget where they truly come from. Have you ever caught yourself staring at the clock, noticing the same repeating numbers over and over, and thinking, this must mean something? Or maybe you overheard a stranger say exactly the words you needed to hear at the perfect moment, and you felt, deep down, that it was a message from the universe guiding you. We've all been there. We've been taught to believe that the universe speaks to us through external signs, through patterns, coincidences, or perfectly timed events. It's comforting, isn't it? It makes us feel less alone, as though some mysterious hand is nudging us in the right direction. But what if I told you that the most profound messages aren't out there at all? What if the universe isn't sending you clues through numbers, songs, or sudden coincidences? Because the universe isn't separate from you. The truth is deeper, simpler, and far more powerful. The universe is you. Every so-called sign you've been waiting for isn't coming from outside. It's arising from your own inner state. From the field of energy and consciousness, you are constantly radiating. The patterns you notice in the world are reflections of your vibration, like ripples on a still pond, showing you what you've been feeling, believing, and emanating all along. You see, when you spend your life chasing after proof, waiting for a miracle to happen before you allow yourself to believe, you unknowingly delay the very transformation you've been longing for. It's like standing at the edge of a river, staring at the reflection of the bridge in the water, while completely missing the bridge that's been under your feet the whole time. Here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop searching for signs, you actually begin to see more of them. But they no longer appear to convince you, they appear to confirm you. The synchronicities that show up in your life aren't here to prove your path is real. They are echoes, ripples that form after you've already made an inner choice. Like the trail of a bird gliding through the sky. They simply reveal the direction you've been soaring in all along. Think back to a time when you just knew something deep inside you. Even when it didn't make sense on paper. Maybe it was a decision to take a leap of faith, to leave a job, to move to a new city, to end a relationship, or to start a new chapter. At the time, others may have questioned you, and your rational mind might have been filled with doubt. And yet, when you followed that inner nudge, things began to align. Doors opened, the right people appeared. Life seemed to organize itself around your choice. That wasn't coincidence. That was resonance. That was the field responding to your decision. But here's where so many of us get stuck. We hesitate. We wait for external validation before taking action. We think, I'll move forward only if I get a clear sign. But in doing so, we broadcast hesitation into the very field we hope to shift. The energy of waiting creates more waiting. It's like standing at the shore, holding a lantern, refusing to set sail until you see the lighthouse appear in the distance, when all along, the lighthouse will only light up after you've already begun. Your journey, the real work, the real magic, is in learning to listen to the signals within. Your intuition is not random, and it's not just a feeling. It's the language of the quantum field moving through your body. It's a whisper that says, go now, trust this, step forward. And when you act from that place, not from fear or control, but from quiet inner knowing, the external world responds in ways you couldn't have predicted. So today, I invite you to stop chasing signs like scattered breadcrumbs on a dark path. Instead, become still enough to sense the steady heartbeat of your own inner guidance. Notice the subtle nudges, the calm in your chest, the soft pull toward a choice, the inexplicable clarity that rises in silence. The universe doesn't speak through numbers or random events. It speaks through you, through your breath, through your awareness, through every decision you make when you trust that deep, unshakable resonance within. You are not waiting for a message. You are the message. And the moment you truly embrace that truth, life stops feeling like a puzzle you must solve and starts flowing like a river that has been carrying you all along. 1. Intuition is the quantum compass. There is a compass inside you, not the kind that points north, guiding you through forests or across oceans, but a quiet, invisible compass that helps you navigate the terrain of your life. It doesn't need maps or road signs, and it doesn't shout directions. It speaks in whispers, a gentle pull, a soft knowing that often defies logic. Most of us were never taught to trust this inner compass. From a young age, we were told to value reason above all else, to collect facts, weigh pros and cons, and follow the safe, predictable path. And while logic has its place, it can only take you so far. Logic is like looking in the rearview mirror. It works with what has already happened. But intuition is different. It is a direct line to what is unfolding, to possibilities that have not yet become visible. Intuition isn't just a fleeting emotion or a random guess. It's not the nervous flutter of fear or the rush of excitement that comes and goes. It is much deeper, steadier, a signal from the quantum field, coming from your own soul. It's the subtle language of the universe, flowing through your body and mind, pointing you toward the life that is most aligned with who you truly are. Imagine holding a compass in your hand. No matter how lost you feel, no matter how cloudy the sky, the needle always finds its way to true north. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't tell you what you'll encounter on the journey. It simply points, steady and unwavering. Your intuition works exactly the same way, even when everything around you feels chaotic. Even when you can't see more than a few steps ahead, there is a part of you that knows, and yet, many of us ignore it. We override it with our thinking minds, or we let fear drown out its quiet voice. We tell ourselves, I need more proof. I need a sign. But here's the truth I've learned. When you wait for external proof before you move, you delay the very life you are longing for. The signal doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. It's like standing on a riverbank, staring at the reflection of the current, while refusing to notice that you are already in the water, being carried along. There were times in my own life when I didn't listen to this inner compass. I let other people's opinions guide me. I followed plans that looked perfect on paper, only to feel empty once I got there. I mistook the loudness of the world for clarity, and in doing so, I silenced my own truth. Looking back, I realized that my soul was always speaking to me in subtle sensations, in dreams, in the heaviness I felt when I was out of alignment, but I was too distracted to hear it. And there were other moments, rare, sacred moments, when I listened, times when I felt a quiet certainty rise up inside me, even when everything on the outside told me to do the opposite. Like the time I walked away from an opportunity everyone else thought was perfect for me, or when I said yes to something that made no logical sense. Those decisions changed the entire direction of my life. At the time, I couldn't explain why. I just knew. When you honor this knowing, something miraculous happens. The external world begins to organize itself around your choice. Paths appear where there were none. The right people show up. What once felt impossible begins to unfold with surprising ease. It doesn't mean the journey will be free of challenges, but it does mean you won't feel lost. You'll be moving with the current rather than against it, like a river flowing effortlessly downstream, no longer trying to fight its own nature. The quantum field responds to coherence. When you trust your inner compass, you create alignment between your inner world and outer reality. This is not a mystical metaphor. It's the way energy works. Just as birds use the Earth's magnetic field to migrate thousands of miles with precision, your soul is connected to the field in a way that guides you toward your true path. You don't have to force it. You only have to listen. The challenge, of course, is quieting the noise long enough to hear it. In a world filled with constant notifications, endless advice, and fear-driven headlines, it's easy to mistake chaos for direction. That's why stillness is so important. Silence is not empty. It is the space where your compass becomes clear. When you sit in stillness, even for just a few minutes a day, you begin to sense the subtle shifts in your body. The gentle pull of yes or no, the expansion that signals alignment, and the contraction that signals misalignment. Over time, you start to realize that your intuition has been guiding you all along. It was never lost. It was never broken. It was only waiting for you to return to it. So today, I invite you to pause, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what do I already know? Deep inside, that I've been too afraid to admit. You might not hear words. You might just feel a calm certainty, a sense of relief, or even a soft ache in your chest. That's your compass speaking. Trust it. Follow it. Because when you do, you are no longer wandering blindly through life. You are moving with precision, guided by the most advanced navigation system the universe has ever created, your own soul. And that inner compass will always point you home. 2. Synchronicity is the echo, not the cause. There was a time when I, like many others, would look to the world outside of me for validation, for proof that I was on the right path. I would search for repeating numbers on a clock, a chance encounter with a stranger who said exactly what I needed to hear, or an opportunity that seemed to appear out of nowhere. And when these things happened, I felt comforted. I thought, this must be the universe giving me a sign. But here's what I've come to understand. After many years of walking through both light and darkness, those signs, those synchronicities, were never the starting point. They were never the cause of change. They were the reflection, not the origin. Think of it like this. When you throw a stone into a still pond, ripples spread across the surface. The ripples are visible. You can see them, hear them, even feel them if you touch the water. But they are not the stone. They are simply the result of the stone's movement beneath the surface. Synchronicities, the repeating numbers, the sudden coincidences, the doors that seem to open at just the right time, are like those ripples. They are the visible expressions of something deeper that has already shifted inside you. The moment you make a true inner choice, not just a passing thought, but a deep decision aligned with your soul, the quantum field begins to respond. Your energy changes first. Your beliefs, your vibration, your inner state, they send out a signal. And when that signal is steady, the outer world begins to rearrange itself to match it. What you call signs are simply the ripples from that signal reaching the surface. But here's the trap. So many of us fall into, we wait for the ripple before we move. We think, I'll take this leap only if the universe shows me a sign. We hesitate. We hold back. We delay. And in doing so, we are like a musician waiting to hear the note before playing the instrument, forgetting that the sound can only come after the movement. This is what I mean when I say that living this way is living backward. You end up following reality instead of creating it. You chase after effects instead of standing firmly in the place of cause. I've experienced this in my own life, more times than I can count. I remember once, when I was deeply unsure about a major decision, I prayed for a sign, pleaded for some kind of guidance. I told myself I wouldn't act until I saw something undeniable, something outside of me that said, yes, go this way. And you know what happened? Nothing. Days passed, then weeks. I felt stuck, frustrated, and increasingly hopeless. It wasn't until I got quiet, really quiet, that I realized what had been there all along. The knowing wasn't going to come from a billboard or a coincidence. It was already in me. My body felt it. My heart knew it. I had been waiting for an external voice, when my own soul had been whispering the answer from the very beginning. When I finally chose fully, completely, without waiting for external confirmation, everything began to move. Within days, opportunities appeared. Conversations happened by chance. Things lined up in a way that felt almost magical. But I understood then. These were not signs telling me to go. They were reflections of the fact that I had already gone, at least on the inside. It's easy to misunderstand synchronicity as a green light, as though the universe is testing you, and only when you pass do you get permission to act. But the truth is far simpler and far more empowering. You are the cause. The so-called signs are just the world catching up to the choice you've already made within the fent. Think of a sunrise. When the sun begins to rise, the sky slowly fills with light. You don't mistake the light for the sun itself. You know it's just the evidence that the sun has risen beyond the horizon. In the same way, synchronicities are evidence that something within you has shifted into alignment. They are not the source of your power. They are simply proof that your inner decision is radiating outward. When you wait for a sign before you act, you are giving away your creative authority. You're saying, I don't trust myself enough to move unless something outside of me tells me it's safe. But real transformation comes when you act first, when you step forward because your inner compass points you there, even if no sign has appeared yet. This doesn't mean you won't see synchronicities. You will, and they can be beautiful, awe-inspiring, even, but when you see them, you'll understand them differently. They won't feel like lifelines or secret messages you desperately need. They'll feel like a quiet nod from the universe, a gentle smile that says, yes, you were right to trust yourself. The next time you see repeating numbers or experience a perfect coincidence, pause and remember this. It's not the sign that makes your path real. It's your choice that shapes reality. The sign is just the echo of that choice, reflecting back to you the power you've had all along. 3. Act before the mind interrupts. There's a brief the place and mind interrupts. Sacred moment that often comes before change, a moment so quiet and fleeting that, if you're not paying attention, it can slip through your fingers like smoke. It begins as a whisper inside your body, a calm certainty in your chest, a sudden surge of energy in your gut, or even a subtle shiver down your spine. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's the kind of signal that makes you pause, even if just for a heartbeat, and think, something about this feels right. This is the language of your soul. It's how the quantum field communicates with you through sensation, through intuition, through the spaces between your thoughts. But here's where so many of us falter. We hesitate. The signal comes, pure and clear, and for a split second, we know what to do. Then, almost immediately, the mind jumps in with its endless questions. What if I'm wrong? What if it's not safe? How will I explain this to others? Logic starts dissecting the moment, trying to fit it neatly into the familiar patterns of the past. And in that pause, in that split second of hesitation, something powerful happens. The wave collapses. The potential future that was calling to you begins to fade, like a dream dissolving in the morning light. I've lived this pattern more times than I'd like to admit. There were moments when my whole body urged me to act, to make a call, to say yes, to walk through a door that felt strangely alive with possibility. But instead, I waited. I told myself I needed more information, more clarity, more certainty. I let fear and analysis talk me out of what I already knew deep inside. And later, when the moment passed, I would feel an ache in my chest, a quiet grief. Because deep down, I knew I had missed something. I hadn't been wrong about the signal, I had just been too slow to respond. The quantum field doesn't wait for us to feel ready. It responds to resonance in real time. When your inner state aligns with a new possibility, that possibility opens, but only for as long as you stay in that state. The moment doubt takes over, the frequency shifts, and reality reverts to what it was before. Think of it like catching a wave in the ocean. When the swell rises beneath you, you have to paddle and stand at exactly the right moment. If you hesitate, even for a second, the wave passes you by. You're left sitting still. watching it crash onto the shore without you. The same is true with opportunities, relationships, and transformations. Life moves in waves. Your job is to recognize when one is rising beneath you, and then to trust yourself enough to ride it before the mind convinces you otherwise. This doesn't mean acting recklessly or ignoring common sense. It means learning to distinguish between fear and intuition. Fear is noisy, frantique, and overwhelming. It shouts worst-case scenarios and keeps you frozen in place. Intuition, on the other hand, feels calm, grounded, and clear, even if what it's asking of you seems risky or illogical. It often arrives as a gentle nudge, a subtle but undeniable pull in a certain direction. When you act from this place of inner knowing, you lock in the frequency of the reality you are stepping into. Your action becomes the bridge between what exists in the quantum field and what you experience in the physical world. Without action, even the most powerful inner alignment remains potential, like a seed that is never planted in the soil. I remember a time when I felt an overwhelming urge to reach out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years. There was no logical reason, no clear outcome I was seeking, just a quiet, persistent feeling in my heart that said, "Call them." I almost didn't do it. My mind immediately jumped in with reasons not to. They probably won't answer. It'll be awkward. It doesn't make sense. But this time, I chose to act before my thoughts could stop me. That single phone call led to a connection that changed the entire trajectory of my life. Looking back, I realized that if I had waited even a few hours, the window might have closed. They might not have been available. The timing would have shifted. The opportunity would have passed. This is why speed matters. Not frantic rushing, but aligned, immediate action. When you move in harmony with your inner signal, you are telling the universe, "I am ready." And in response, the universe rearranges itself around your choice. So the next time you feel that quiet nudge to speak, to move, to begin, to let go, trust it. Don't wait for every step to be lit up. Don't demand proof before you leap. Because if you wait for certainty, you'll always be a step behind. Act before the mind interrupts. Act while the signal is still fresh and alive within you. And as you do, you'll discover something. Miraculous life doesn't just happen to you. You are a co-creator, shaping reality moment by moment, not with endless thinking or over-planning, but with the courage to act on what your soul already knows. 4. Your body is the receiver of the universe. There is a quiet intelligence within you that has been there since the day you were born. It doesn't speak in words or appear as images in your mind. It doesn't argue or convince. Instead, it whispers through sensations, the subtle language of the body. Your body is not just flesh and bone, not merely a vessel carrying you through life. It is the most intricate, sensitive instrument the universe has ever created. A receiver so precise that it can pick up signals long before your conscious mind has a chance to interpret them. Think of a radio. When it's tuned correctly, it captures a specific frequency and turns invisible vibrations into music you can hear. Your body works the same way. It constantly tunes in to the field around you, receiving information from the quantum web of energy that connects everything. But unlike a radio, this signal doesn't come through sound. It comes through feelings, the rush of warmth in your chest when something resonates as truth, the tightening in your gut when something isn't right, the goosebumps that rise on your skin when you are in the presence of something profoundly aligned. These sensations are not random. They are data. They are your body's way of telling you, pay attention. Something important is happening here. The tragedy is that most of us were taught to ignore them. We were told to trust what we can see and hear, to prioritize logic and reason, and to dismiss feelings as unreliable or unimportant. Over time, we learn to live almost entirely in our heads, disconnected from the quiet signals our bodies have been sending all along. I know this path well. For years, I treated my body like a machine, something to push, to control, to silence. When it became inconvenient, I thought wisdom lived only in the mind, in facts and plans, and carefully laid out steps. But in the moments when life fell apart, when nothing made sense, and my thoughts only added to the chaos, it was my body that guided me home. I remember one night, standing alone in a place of deep uncertainty. My mind was a storm of questions. What should I do? What's the right choice? How will I know if I'm making a mistake? I couldn't think my way to clarity. So I closed my eyes and listened, not to the noise in my head, but to the quiet hum beneath it. That's when I felt a soft expansion in my chest, like a door opening inside me. There were no words, no rational explanation, just a deep, undeniable sense of yes. It was subtle, so subtle that if I hadn't been paying attention, I might have missed it. But in that moment, I realized something profound my body had known all along. The quantum field speaks to us through our nervous system. It's like a constant stream of messages, tiny shifts in energy that we experience as physical sensations. The warmth you feel when you're with someone you trust, the sinking heaviness in your stomach when you walk into a space that isn't safe, the sudden chill that runs through you when you're about to make a life-changing decision. These are not coincidences. They are signals. They are your body, acting as a bridge between you and the infinite intelligence of the universe. When you begin to see your body this way, everything changes. You no longer dismiss your feelings as just emotions. You start to notice patterns, how your breath shortens when you're out of alignment, how your shoulders soften when you're on the right path, how certain people leave you feeling drained, while others make you feel expansive and alive. The challenge is that in today's world, we are surrounded by noise-constant notifications, endless chatter, unprocessed stress. It's like trying to hear a delicate melody while standing next to a roaring engine. The signal from your body is always there, but it's easily drowned out. This is why stillness is essential. When you slow down, when you give yourself space to breathe and feel, you begin to hear what's been there all along. Even just a few minutes of silence each day can help you tune back into the frequency of your own being. It's also important to approach these sensations with curiosity rather than judgment. Don't rush to label them as good or bad. Simply notice them, like a scientist observing an experiment or a musician learning to recognize a note. Over time, you'll develop a deeper sensitivity. You'll start to distinguish between the tightness of fear and the expansion of intuition, between the exhaustion of resistance and the ease of alignment. The more you trust this inner guidance, the more precise it becomes. It's like strengthening a muscle or sharpening a skill. With practice, your body becomes a reliable compass, always pointing you toward the truth of the moment. Even when your mind is clouded by doubt, the universe is not silent. It is speaking to you constantly through this incredible receiver you carry within. The question is not whether the signal is there. It always is. The question is, are you listening? When you finally begin to listen, you realize something profound. You were never lost. You were never without guidance. The map was inside you all along, waiting for you to slow down, to tune in, and to trust the subtle language of your own body. 5. Silence is the language of the universe. There is a kind of wisdom that does not come through words. It does not arrive in a book, a lecture, or even in the well-meaning advice of someone who loves you. It comes quietly, like the first light of dawn spilling gently over the horizon. You don't chase it. You don't earn it. It simply appears when you are still enough to notice. In a world filled with endless noise, notifications buzzing, opinions flying, demands pulling you in 1,000 directions, it can feel almost impossible to hear yourself think, let alone hear the universe speaking to you. We are surrounded by so much input that it's no wonder we get lost. We confuse activity with clarity, motion with progress. We think that if we just try harder, analyze more, or gather more information, we'll finally understand what to do. But the deepest truths never shout. They live in the quiet spaces, the pauses between breaths, the soft hum beneath the chaos. I learned this the hard way. There was a season in my life when everything felt like it was falling apart. My mind was loud, like a storm raging day and night. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus. I kept looking for answers in the noise, searching for signs, reading articles, asking everyone around me what they thought I should do. The more I searched, the more confused I became. It was like standing in the middle of a crowded marketplace, everyone shouting their version of the truth, until I couldn't even remember what my own voice sounded like. One evening, exhausted, I sat in the dark with no agenda. I wasn't trying to meditate. I wasn't trying to fix anything. I just stopped. And in that stillness, something remarkable happened. Beneath the roar of my thoughts, I felt a quiet presence, not a voice, not words, but a steady, undeniable sense of being held. It wasn't outside of me. It was within me. In that moment, I understood something simple, yet life-changing. Silence isn't empty. Silence is full. The world teaches us that silence is the absence of life, the space where nothing is happening, but the opposite is true. Silence is where life speaks the loudest. It is the language of the universe, a language beyond sound and image. When you allow yourself to sink into that stillness, you realize that you don't need to control everything. You don't need to figure it all out. The answers rise up naturally, like bubbles surfacing in clear water. This doesn't happen when you're straining to hear or when you're demanding clarity. It happens when you surrender, when you let go of the need to control and simply sit with what is. Imagine a snow globe that's been shaken. At first, everything is chaotic. The tiny particles whirl around, and you can't see clearly through the glass. But if you set it down and wait, the swirling stops. The pieces settle. Slowly, the picture inside becomes clear. Your mind is like that. The more you fight the chaos, the longer it stays. The moment you stop, the moment you sit in stillness, things begin to settle on their own. In silence, you begin to sense the subtle movements of the universe. You might notice a soft expansion in your chest, a wave of peace washing through you, or a sudden clarity that arises without explanation. These are not coincidences. They are the universe speaking in its native tongue, a language that doesn't rely on logic or words, but on direct knowing. The challenge is that silence can feel uncomfortable at first. Many of us avoid it because, in the beginning, the noise we hear isn't peaceful at all. When you first sit quietly, you may be confronted with your own unprocessed pain, your fears, and your regrets. It's like stepping into a dark room after years of keeping the lights off. At first, you see only the shadows, but if you stay, if you breathe and allow yourself to be present, something beautiful happens. The darkness begins to soften. The room doesn't feel so frightening. And slowly, light fills the space. This is why stillness is not about escape. It's about meeting yourself fully, the joy and the sorrow, the clarity and the confusion, and discovering that underneath it all, there is a steady, unshakable presence. Some call it the soul. Others call it consciousness. Whatever name you give it, it is where the voice of the universe resides. When you cultivate moments of silence, you create space for this voice to emerge. It won't come with fanfare. It won't demand your attention. It will simply be there, like a calm river, running beneath the surface of your life. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more time you spend in silence, the more easily you can hear guidance, even in the midst of chaos. You no longer need to retreat completely from the world to feel connected. You carry the stillness within you, like an inner sanctuary you can return to at any moment. So, if you feel lost, overwhelmed, or unsure of your next step, pause. Turn off the noise for a while, sit quietly, without an agenda. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to search for signs. Simply breathe and listen. For in that silence, you may discover that the universe has been speaking to you all along, not through words or symbols, but through the profound, steady rhythm of your own awareness. And once you've heard it, you will never forget the soundless voice that has always been guiding you home. 6. Fear is the static that must be cleared. Fear is not the enemy. For most of my life, I believed it was. I thought fear was something to fight against, to crush or silence. When fear showed up, I saw it as a sign of weakness, a flaw that needed fixing. But over the years, through heartache, loss, and countless moments of standing at the edge of the unknown, I've come to see fear differently. Fear is not here to destroy you. It's here to reveal something hidden beneath it. Imagine tuning a radio to your favorite station. If there's too much static, you can't hear the song clearly. The music is still playing, but it's buried under the noise. This is exactly what fear does to your life. It distorts the signal of your intuition, making it difficult to hear the quiet wisdom of the universe. The whispers of guidance are always there, but fear scrambles them, leaving you second-guessing, overthinking, and doubting what you already know deep inside. When you're caught in fear, your body enters survival mode. Your breath becomes shallow, your muscles tense, and your mind races. In this state, your energy field becomes chaotic. It's not that the universe stops speaking to you, it's that you've lost your ability to listen. Just like a storm cloud covering the sun, fear blocks the light of clarity, leaving everything looking darker than it truly is. I remember a time when fear completely ruled my decisions. There was an opportunity that felt deeply right to my heart, but fear whispered all the reasons why I shouldn't take it. What if you fail? What if you're judged? What if you lose everything? The more I listened to those voices, the smaller I felt. My world began to shrink. I didn't realize it at the time, but I wasn't making clear choices. I was reacting to distorted signals, moving in circles, never truly moving forward. The turning point came when I stopped trying to get rid of fear and instead chose to meet it. Instead of running from it or pushing it down, I sat with it. I breathed into it. I asked myself, what is this fear really trying to protect me from? What I discovered was profound fear was not a monster outside of me. It was a part of me that longed to be seen, understood, and integrated. It was like a frightened child holding onto my sleeve, saying, "Please, don't leave me behind." When you face fear directly, you begin to realize that beneath its sharp edges lies a softer truth: vulnerability, longing, love. Fear is only the surface layer. Beneath it, there's always a deeper signal waiting to be heard. This doesn't mean fear disappears overnight. It may still arise, especially when you're about to grow or step into the unknown. But here's the secret: you don't have to let fear drive your actions. You don't need to banish it before you move forward. You simply need to clear the static so you can hear the true signal beneath it. One of the most powerful ways to do this is through the breath. When you breathe slowly and intentionally, you send a message to your body: we are safe now. As your breath deepens, your nervous system begins to calm. The chaotic energy of fear settles, like mud sinking to the bottom of a glass of water. Suddenly, the water, your inner state, becomes clear again. From that clarity, you can finally hear the whispers that were there all along. I've seen this play out in my own life many times. There have been moments when, in the midst of panic or confusion, I paused and focused only on breathing. At first, the fear screamed louder, but as I stayed with it, breathing in, breathing out, something shifted. The fear didn't vanish, but it softened, and beneath it, like a faint melody, beneath the static, came a sense of knowing the next step, The right choice. The quiet truth. When you begin to work with fear this way, you stop seeing it as a villain and start recognizing it as a teacher. Each time fear arises, it's showing you where you are out of alignment, where old wounds are ready to be healed, where growth is calling you forward. It's an invitation to go deeper, not a command to turn back. Think of fear as a fog on the path ahead. If you rush into it blindly or fight against it, you'll stumble and fall. But if you slow down, breathe, and let your vision adjust, the fog begins to lift. Little by little, the way forward becomes visible again. The whispers of the universe are subtle. They will never compete with the shouting voice of fear. If you want to hear them, you must be willing to quiet the noise, to sit in stillness, to breathe through the trembling, to open your heart, even when it feels risky. When you do, you'll discover that the guidance you've been searching for was never gone. It was always here, beneath the static. Fear was just the veil, and you are the one with the power to lift it. The universe doesn't wait for you to be fearless before it speaks. It speaks in every moment, even through the fear, inviting you to come closer, to listen more deeply, and to trust that beneath every trembling step lies the steady ground of your own soul. 7. Science proves intuition is real for so long. Intuition has been treated like a fragile dream, something mystical, unmeasurable, and therefore easily dismissed. People have been taught to see it as superstition, a lucky guess, or simply women's intuition, as if it were some soft, unreliable thing that had no place in the rational world. But the truth is far deeper. Science, step by step, is beginning to catch up with what our souls have always known. Intuition is not magic. It is not wishful thinking. It is data, subtle, sophisticated data that your body gathers before your conscious mind can make sense of it. There's a place where spirituality and science meet, and it's inside of you. Researchers at the HeartMath Institute have studied this phenomenon for years. In one experiment, participants were shown random images on a screen, some peaceful and neutral, like landscapes or everyday objects, and others emotionally charged, like images that might trigger fear or surprise. What stunned the researchers was this: a few seconds before the image even appeared, participants' heart rhythms began to shift. The body reacted before the event occurred. This means that, on an energetic level, your heart and nervous system are already in communication with what is about to unfold. The conscious mind catches up later, like a news anchor, reporting a story that has already happened. Think about how profound this is. It suggests that we are not isolated, linear beings moving blindly through time. Instead, we are deeply connected to a field of information, a quantum network that flows beyond our ordinary senses. Your body, with its intricate wiring, is like an antenna, constantly picking up signals from this field. Neuroscientists have seen similar patterns in the brain. In certain studies, subtle electrical activity begins to fire seconds before a participant makes a conscious decision. In other words, your body already knows the choice you are going to make before you think, "I've decided." Have you ever had that experience of suddenly blurting something out or taking action, and only afterward realizing why you did it? That's not you being impulsive or irrational. That's your body, moving in harmony with data it received from the deeper layers of reality. This isn't just theory. You've felt it before. Maybe there was a day when you suddenly thought of someone you hadn't spoken to in years, only to have them call you an hour later. Or a moment when you felt uneasy walking into a certain place, even though nothing looked wrong. And later, you discovered that your body had been sensing something you couldn't yet see. These are not coincidences. They are evidence that your body is constantly scanning the world on a level your conscious mind cannot reach. And here's the beautiful thing. This science doesn't take away the mystery. It deepens it, knowing that your heart beats in tune with the quantum field. that your nervous system is like a receiver tuned to signals from beyond the present moment, reminds you of how profoundly interconnected everything truly is. For a long time, I dismissed my own inner nudges. I would feel something in my chest, a quiet pull to go one way instead of another, and my mind would immediately override it. I told myself I was being foolish, that I needed to rely on logic and evidence. But over time, I began to notice a pattern. The more I ignored these subtle messages, the more difficult and tangled my path became. And when I finally began to trust them, life started to flow with a grace I couldn't explain. Science gives us language to understand this, but we don't need to wait for a lab to prove what we already know through experience. Every time you listen to a gut feeling, every time you honor the soft hum of truth beneath your thoughts, you are aligning with this field of data. Your intuition is like a bridge between the physical and the unseen. It gathers information faster and more completely than your conscious mind ever could. It's not mystical fluff, it's biology, working in partnership with the vast intelligence of the universe. Think of it like a storm moving across the ocean. A sailor with sensitive equipment can detect the shift in air pressure long before the storm reaches the shore. In the same way, your body senses changes in the field before they become visible events in your life. When you understand this, you begin to trust yourself in a new way. You stop demanding constant proof. You stop needing the world to give you permission to know what you already know. The next time you feel that subtle twinge in your heart, that gentle whisper of yes or no, remember this: it isn't a fantasy. It isn't blind faith. It is your biology working in harmony with the cosmos. The universe is not somewhere out there, far away. It is pulsing through your veins, beating in rhythm with your heart, sending signals through the language of feeling and sensation. And when you learn to listen, really listen, you discover that you are not separate from this vast intelligence. You are a living, breathing expression of it. Science may call it data, energy, or resonance, but to you, it will simply feel like home. 8. Familiarity creates the old loops. We like to believe we are free, that we are making fresh choices each day. But if you pause and look closely at your life, you might notice something hauntingly familiar. The same arguments, the same struggles, the same kinds of relationships or jobs showing up again and again. It can feel like fate, as if the universe has conspired to keep you trapped in a repeating story. But the truth is far simpler and far more empowering. Most of the time, it isn't the universe holding you there. It's your own mind. Our brains are designed to seek out the familiar. It's a survival mechanism, built to keep us safe. From an evolutionary perspective, what is known feels less dangerous than what is unknown. So even if the known is painful, a toxic relationship, a job that drains you, a belief that limits you, the brain clings to it because it knows how to predict it. The unfamiliar, on the other hand, feels risky. Even when something better is trying to enter your life, your nervous system might interpret it as a threat simply because it's different. Imagine a small child clinging to a worn, tattered blanket. It may be frayed and dirty, but it feels safe because it's what the child has always known. We are like that with our patterns. We hold tightly to our old blankets, old beliefs, old habits, old versions of ourselves, even when they no longer serve us, simply because letting go feels too vulnerable. This is why new signals are so easily dismissed. When a moment of truth rises inside you, a quiet whisper urging you to take a new path, a sudden insight that challenges everything you've believed, it often doesn't feel comfortable. In fact, it can feel deeply unsettling. And when discomfort arises, most people turn away. The mind says, "This can't be right. This is too strange, too uncertain." And so, the signal is ignored. We retreat back into the familiar, into the old loops, thinking, "At least here I know what to expect." I've been there myself more times than I care to admit. I stayed in situations long past their expiration date because they were predictable. I chose paths that looked safe, even when my heart longed for something different. Looking back, I can see how I mistook repetition for destiny. I thought, maybe this is just who I am. Maybe this is just how my life is meant to be. But it wasn't destiny. It was conditioning. Your brain has filters, like a lens through which you see the world. These filters are shaped by your past experiences, your upbringing, your traumas, and your cultural environment. They decide what information gets through and what gets blocked. When a signal comes from the quantum field, a subtle message of growth, an opportunity for change, it has to pass through these filters. If the signal doesn't match what's familiar, the brain often rejects it before you even realize it was there. It's like standing at the edge of a forest, hearing a faint melody, but dismissing it because you've never heard that song before. You walk away, telling yourself, it must not have been important. This is how old loops keep repeating. It's not that the universe refuses to give you new possibilities. It's that you're unable to perceive them clearly, because your inner lens is clouded by what's familiar. The good news is this loops can be broken. It begins with awareness. When you notice yourself repeating the same experiences, the same kinds of relationships, the same conflicts, the same disappointments, pause. Ask yourself, what about this feels familiar? Where have I been here before? This question shines a light on the hidden pattern beneath the surface. And once you see the pattern, it begins to lose its power. Breaking free isn't about forcing yourself to change everything overnight. That would overwhelm your system and make you retreat even deeper into the old loops. Instead, it's about meeting discomfort with gentleness. When a new signal comes, maybe a gut feeling, an intuitive nudge, an opportunity that scares you a little, instead of immediately rejecting it, breathe. Notice the discomfort, name it. Say to yourself, this feels new, this feels uncertain, and that's okay. With practice, you can teach your nervous system that new does not always mean dangerous. You can create safety in your body even as you step into unfamiliar territory. And slowly, the loops begin to unravel. I've seen this happen in my own life. The first time I said yes to something that didn't fit my old story, I was terrified. But on the other side of that fear was freedom. Each time I honored a new signal, the familiar chains loosened a little more, until one day, I realized they had fallen away completely. The universe has always been offering you new songs to dance to, but to hear them, you must be willing to step beyond the noise of the familiar and into the quiet, trembling space of the unknown. There, in that space, a new reality waits, not imposed by fate, but chosen by you. 9. Trust in small steps. There's a quiet pressure in today's world that tells us transformation must happen in an instant. We scroll through images of overnight success, dramatic before and after stories, and people who seem to have leapt into new lives without hesitation. And when we compare ourselves to that, we begin to feel like we are failing. Like if we can't change everything right now, we'll never change at all. But life doesn't usually move that way. Real, lasting transformation rarely happens in one giant leap. More often, it begins with something far smaller, a single, tiny step. You don't have to rebuild your entire life overnight. You don't have to have the whole plan figured out or know exactly where the road will lead. All you need to do is listen to one quiet nudge from within and follow it. Sometimes that nudge feels like a whisper in your chest, urging you to take a slightly different route home. Sometimes it's the sudden impulse to speak a truth you've been holding back, or to make a phone call you've been avoiding. These moments can seem insignificant at first glance, so small that your mind might dismiss them as unimportant. But here's the secret. These small actions are how you build trust with yourself. Think of it like learning to walk again after an injury. At first, every step feels shaky. Your muscles don't quite remember what to do, and you have to move slowly, deliberately, Over time, as you keep taking those steps, your body grows stronger and your movements become natural again. Your intuition works the same way. Each time you honor a small inner signal, you strengthen the connection between your conscious mind and the deeper wisdom within you. Each time you listen, even if it's just for a moment, you are telling yourself, I trust you. I believe you. This trust doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It grows quietly, like a seed pushing through the soil. At first, it's fragile. It needs protection. You might even doubt whether anything is happening at all. But with patience and consistent care, that seed becomes a tree rooted, steady, unshakable. When your trust deepens, something extraordinary begins to happen. The steps you take become bolder. The decisions you make come from a place of clarity rather than fear. And then, almost without realizing it, you experience what some call a quantum leap, a sudden, profound shift in your life that seems to happen all at once. But if you look closely, you'll see that leap was built on hundreds of small steps you took along the way. I've witnessed this in my own life. There was a time when I wanted to completely change everything: my work, my relationships, even the way I saw myself. The idea of doing it all at once was overwhelming, paralyzing. So instead, I started small. One morning, I listened to the subtle urge to take a walk instead of rushing into my usual routine. Another day, I told the truth in a conversation where I usually would have stayed silent. These actions felt tiny, almost invisible, but each one strengthened a bridge inside me, a bridge of trust between my outer life and my inner knowing. Months later, when a bigger opportunity came, a chance to make a major decision that would change my future, I didn't have to fight my fear as much as I once did. By then, my trust muscle had grown strong. I was ready to leap, not because I forced myself to, but because I had been preparing for it with every small step along the way. Here's what I've learned. Rushing toward transformation often backfires. When you try to tear down everything at once, your nervous system goes into survival mode. It clings to the old ways because it doesn't feel safe. But when you move gently, honoring each step, you create a sense of safety and stability. Your body begins to relax. Your heart begins to open. And from that space of calm, true change can take root. So today, don't worry about the entire mountain you want to climb. Just focus on the next foothold. The next small action you can take in alignment with your truth. Maybe it's as simple as saying no when you usually say yes. Maybe it's choosing to rest when you feel the urge to push through exhaustion. Maybe it's following that quiet instinct to turn left instead of right. Even if you don't know why. Each small step is a conversation with the universe. Each moment of trust sends a signal into the field, saying, I am ready. I am listening. And slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, your reality begins to shift. One day, you'll look back and realize how far you've come, not through a single dramatic moment, but through 1,000 tiny choices, each one a prayer, each one an act of faith. Remember this, you don't need to leap before you're ready. You don't need to have the whole map. You just need to take one step today, and then another tomorrow. Because step by step, trust builds. And when that trust becomes strong enough, what once felt impossible will happen naturally, almost effortlessly, as if the universe itself is carrying you forward. You are the signal. The universe is never silent. Even in the moments when you feel lost, abandoned, or unsure of where to turn, there is always a conversation happening beneath the surface. It's not in the numbers you see on a clock or the coincidences you search for in the outside world. It's in something much closer, much more intimate. The universe speaks to you through the rhythm of your own heartbeat, through the subtle vibrations that ripple through your body when you are still enough to notice them. It speaks in the gentle rising and falling of your breath, in the quiet awareness that blooms when you dare to pause. For so long, we've been taught to chase signs, to look outward for confirmation that we're on the right path. But here's the truth. That has taken me years of stumbling and returning to finally understand. You don't need to go looking for signals, because you are the signal. The miracle you're waiting for isn't something separate from you. It's not out there, hidden behind some locked door that you need to find the key for. The very fact that you exist, that you are here, breathing and aware in this exact moment, is the miracle. When you take a deep breath and let yourself simply be, even for a few seconds, you can feel it. Beneath the noise of the world, beneath the chatter of your own thoughts, there is a stillness, a space where everything makes sense without needing to be explained. This is where the real guidance lives. It's not a booming voice telling you what to do. It's a gentle current carrying you forward. If only you'll stop resisting long enough to feel it. The greatest shift happens when you stop trying to force life to give you answers, and instead, allow yourself to become the answer. You don't walk your path to search for harmony. You walk it to embody harmony, to live it with each step, each breath, each choice. When you understand this, everything softens. The weight you've been carrying begins to lift. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you no longer see yourself as separate from it. You realize you've been part of the flow all along, like a wave that finally remembers it belongs to the ocean. I've lived through seasons of darkness where I believed the universe was testing me, punishing me, or holding back what I most desired. But as I look back now, with clearer eyes and a gentler heart, I see something different. The universe was never testing me. It was never against me. It was waiting for me to trust the quiet voice within myself. The voice I had spent years ignoring while chasing approval, proof, and external signs. That first moment of trust was small, almost invisible, just a single choice to believe in my own inner knowing. But from that moment on, reality began to shift in ways I could never have predicted. Not because the universe suddenly decided to help me, but because I finally aligned with the help that had been there all along. And so, I invite you to pause, place a hand on your heart, feel its steady rhythm. Let this be your reminder. You do not need to search endlessly for signals. Because you are the signal. You do not need to wait for a miracle. Because your very presence is the miracle. When you breathe deeply and listen, you will realize that every answer you've been seeking is already here, resting quietly inside you. The path forward isn't something you have to earn or fight for. It unfolds naturally when you allow yourself to trust what you already are. So take the next step, not in search of harmony, but as harmony itself. Move forward not to prove yourself, but to express the truth that has always been within you. One day, you will look back on this journey and smile, not because you finally figured everything out, but because you'll see that life was never a battle, never a test. You'll see that the universe was always on your side, whispering through your body, through your breath, through the smallest moments of grace. It was never asking you to be perfect. It was only waiting for you to trust the quiet voice inside the voice that says, "You are ready." And from that moment of trust, everything begins to change. Not because the world around you suddenly shifts, but because you finally remember who you are, the signal, the miracle, the living bridge between heaven and earth. The universe has always been speaking. The question now is, are you ready to listen?